Hey guys, in this video we're going to take a look at another solar panel review. Now this is another one from Elecaenta. Now I have done several Elecaenta solar panels. The first one I did was their 120 watt, which I think has now been upgraded. So I might be doing a updated or a refresh review on that 120 watt. That was a panel that I did buy with my own money. It was not sponsored in any way. And this isn't sponsored either, although Elecaenta did send me this solar panel, so I didn't buy it with my own money. But no money actually changed hands. They're not paying me to do this video, as is typically the case with the videos that I do. But this is their 300 watt foldable portable solar panel, and it is updated from the previous 300 watt that I had reviewed. And so we're going to take a look and find out what's new on this. One thing I can tell you that is new, this is a beast, so I can't totally unfold this here, but they have gone back to that pebbled ETFE coating here, that super durable coating. So they've upped the durability of this panel for sure. It is still ultra light. I think this panel is under 14 pounds. You can see it has a bit of flex to it. This might be something you definitely want to consider picking up some solar stakes for, to make sure it can be staked down securely so it doesn't blow over in the wind. We're going to kind of check and just see how stable it is in the wind once we get it outside. Let's take a quick look at the legs here. As you can see, it does have that three-way elastic that allows you to kind of pull it out and expand the angles a fair amount. And then when you fold it up, they just kind of fall into place and they're ready for storage. In the bag, let's see what we got here. Now this is, I think it's got an IP54 waterproof rating, so it is not waterproof, but it will stand up to a light rain without a problem. This does not have a USB module inside. And some people prefer those because it can be nice, I guess, to have a USB module inside there. I've actually found over the years that I rarely use those. I'm usually using the solar panel to charge my power station, so I don't end up typically using the USB modules. And I guess one definite silver lining to not having one in here is these are far more weather resistant without the USB module. So you don't have to worry about getting the USB module wet. That is a kind of an Achilles heel in terms of weather resistance on these portable panels if they have the USB modules. So no USB module, which does make this a little bit more weather resistant. Now they do inside the flap here, you can make that out. They put the model and the power rating, and as you can see, it's 39 volts plus or minus 1.5 volts in the power current. This would be the optimal MPPT range, would be 8 amps output. So you want to make sure that anything you're going to use this on can handle at least 42 volts. And as long as that's within the acceptable range of your charge controller, then this is definitely an option for that particular use case. Now in terms of cables, let's take a look here. So it's got an Anderson extension cable here to a couple of different styles. This looks like a DC, actually this looks like a DC 8020 for the newer style Pro model Jackery Explorer series. Those use a DC 8020, and then an Anderson. So these are also very common. So two fairly common cable types, and then you have got another Anderson extension cable to MC4. Now this is going to be handy if you want to string a couple of these in series or connect them to a couple of parallel branch connectors if you wanted to connect a couple in parallel. So this is where that would become in handy for that as well, because you don't really have to buy anything. Unless you're doing parallel, then you still need the branch connectors, but you don't have to convert it to MC4 because it's already got a cable for you to do that. And then it's got, I think this is about, I would say, a 2 or 3 meter long XT60 cable, and the XT60 connector is actually on the side of this handle. And it does have this sort of flimsy silicone cap. I'm sure that I would either lose or break that off at some point, but not a big deal. But this is where you plug the actual cable in to connect it to your power station. All right, let's, weather's not looking great right now. Let me wait for the sun to come out, and we'll get this thing out and get some performance outside, do a little shading test, see how it stands up to that, and we'll report back. So, see you in just a couple seconds. All right, let's find out how easy this 300 watt panel is to set up. And as you can see, got a bit of a breeze. We'll find out at under 14 pounds or just under 14 pounds how stable this thing is in the wind. All right, as you can see, it's got a fair amount of flex to it because it is so lightweight, and these panels are very thin. but it's pretty easy to set up. Let's go ahead and get the cables out and connect it to a power station and find out what kind of output we're going to get out of it. At the moment, we're only getting about 165 watts, and I kind of attribute that to slight misalignment to the sun, but probably more importantly, I'm in some relatively thick grass, which I think is covering the bottom strip of the front cells along the bottom of the panel. So I'm going to try draping the panel over a flatter surface that gets it up off the ground. Something you could do maybe on a picnic table if you had one handy, out at a campsite, but I'm going to do it on my 800 watt solar array and just drape it across the top and see if we get some better results. So let me go try that. Okay, as you can see, I've got the carabiners attached on either corner here, so I'm just kind of laying it across the top of my 800 watt array to get that bottom row of cells there along the bottom out of the grass. And let's see if we're doing any better on the output here. All right, so we are now getting 263 watts out of this panel. So that is about 100 watts better than we were getting when it was in the grass, which is pretty good, especially for this time of year when you consider that we are in the northern hemisphere and it is almost December. So not ideal solar conditions, even though the sun is out with just wispy clouds today, high cirrus clouds. But that's pretty decent output for a 300 watt portable panel. Now, just to quickly test its shading performance, I did put a shadow, basically a broom handle, across the vertical row of cells on one of the panels. So I wanted to see how it performs. And as you can see, we've only dropped from just a little over 260 watts to a little over 250 watts. So pretty impressive. I actually expected that to drop quite a bit more. So let me try something else. All right, now I am completely obscuring one of the 4 panels. And much to my shock and surprise here, we are still getting over 200 watts of output. So let me remove that from the panel. I'm completely blocked. I'm not just like partially blocking. I've completely blocked one of the panels. Now I've removed that blocking from there, and we are back up to 256 watts. So that is excellent performance. A lot of panels will more than 50% cut out if you block one of the panels, and even if it's just one of the 4. Now you might think, well, we might just lose 25%. That is not always the case. It kind of depends on whether the panels are wired in series or parallel. And this panel, really, this portable panel is showing great performance. So again, I'm going to block that one, and we only drop down to a little over 200 watts. So that is outstanding. That's a very good shade performance out of this upgraded panel. All right, now I'm using that same foam panel to basically block 2 of the solar panels out of the 4. So I've got 50% of the cells blocked, and yet I'm still getting over 50% or about 50% of the rated output. So again, very good shading performance out of this portable solar panel. There are a lot of portable panels out there where if you obscure half of the solar cells, you get pretty much 0 output.
You get nothing!
In this case, I'm getting 50%. So I really do like the shading performance on this Elecaenta 300 watt panel. Okay, so this 300 watt panel actually performed quite well in both the output and shading tests. So, you know, other than the durable pebbled ETF coating, what did they actually upgrade on this new version? Well, they've made some improvements to the leg kickstands. They made them a little bit stronger, a little bit more stable. And despite the ultra-light flexible design, they've apparently also reduced that flex just a little bit versus the previous version to get a flatter panel facing to the sun when you deploy it for improved output performance. And based on the shading test results, it seems pretty clear to me that they've also made some improvements there as well. So I think the kind of the main shading scenario you probably want to avoid, and this would probably apply to any panel, not just this one, would be where you've got a horizontal shade going across the entire length of all of the panels. And that seemed to knock down this output to about 55% of the rated output. That was mostly that tall grass at the beginning when I first deployed the panel on the ground. So that definitely knocked it down more than just shading even just 1 or 2 panels completely. So something to be aware of. Now that said, this panel does stand out as one of the better shading performers that I have tested. And I did leave that panel out in the gusty weather all afternoon for several hours, and it never actually did topple over on me, much to my surprise, because we did have a fair amount of gusty wind all afternoon. Still, with any portable panel, wind is going to topple it eventually unless you use something like these inexpensive solar stakes to secure them to the ground. There's just a lot of surface area on a panel like this, and it doesn't take much wind coming in at just the right direction to flip these things over. And I find these solar stakes to be a kind of a simple, inexpensive solution. I'll put links below if you've never seen those before. You can check them out on Amazon. Now, from a pricing on this guy on Amazon, right now on Amazon US, the 300 watt panel currently still has their Black Friday pricing with a $150 off coupon that you can click to apply, at least until the end of this year, 2023. And that brings the main price down to $449. And then on top of that, I was actually able to convince the Elecaenta guys to create a promo code for an additional 5% off that Black Friday price. And I realize it's not an earth-shattering discount, but at least help offset most of the taxes. And I'll leave that code in the video description below for you if you do want to check that out. But that should get the final price down to about $419, which actually is the best price that I could find on any 300 watt portable solar panel that does have its own leg system built in. There are a couple of slightly cheaper options without legs, but that's kind of a deal breaker, at least for me, and I doubt that they have the build quality that this Elecaenta panel has. Now, do keep in mind that if your power station has a DC 55, 25, or 21 style input connector for solar, and you buy this panel, you might need to pick up an MC4 to 5525 or 5521 adapter if your power station didn't come with one. Most of them do. But you can find those easily on Amazon if you don't have one. And I'll put a link or two below with a couple of options for that if it's something you happen to need. Okay, so I hope you found at least something helpful in this video. If you did, please consider clicking on that like button for me. I'd really appreciate that. And if you're not already a subscriber, well, maybe consider subscribing as well. So with that, I do offer my sincere thanks for you sticking around and watching this video with me, and I do hope you'll consider joining me for the next one. Until then, have fun out there.